Well, I think we're pretty well ready to go. We can get situated here. We got a number of members online and in the boardroom here. So thank you all for taking the time to join us. We do have a quorum here, so that's great. And we have more applicants than we have members as well. So that's always a good thing. Get situated. We got a number. Okay, so we are going to. I'll start us off just by recognizing and appreciating the fact that we're holding this meeting on the territories of the Sashat and Hukashta people, and we're very grateful to be able to be here with you tonight. We do need a volunteer to chair the meeting as well, and I just want to send out a notice to anybody that's watching that and anybody here in the room that the meeting is being recorded and being live streamed on the ACRD's YouTube page right now, and that an archive of that video will be available. So is there somebody on the committee that would like to volunteer to be the chairperson today?
Volunteer.
We'll call the meeting to order. It's 4 minutes after 7, and I see we have 4 items on the agenda. The are we going to go through the approval of the agenda? Okay, so we have the agenda before us. Does anybody have any comments about that? Or is anybody willing to make a motion to approve the agenda as written? Roberta? Second? Okay, we've got it first and second. So there are declarations. Does anybody have any conflict of interest involved in any of the applications that we have before us? And hearing none. We have the minutes from the previous commission meeting on the 24th of November. I trust everybody's read those. Is there any errors or omissions on anything that anybody would like to comment on? Okay, hearing none. Does anybody want to move acceptance of the minutes as they're presented? Second? Roberta? Okay, so we've got... and is there any correspondence before we go into the agenda items?
But you have to keep in that.
Okay, so we have the first one is for DVD 26001. The address at 10170 Kuman Road. It's a strata lot. That's 17 hectare. The proposal is to install an accessory building in an RA zone, RA1 zone, and the building will exceed the height restriction of 12 feet. It's going to be, they're asking for 17-foot height, and that's to accommodate a boat storage and a garage. Currently is a residential property with a house. And for this one, and I commend the people that are applying for this, that they have 2 letters of support from some of the neighbors that are submitted. So
I'd be happy to jump in. You're doing a fantastic job, Walter, by the way. You don't even need staff here. This is great. I will recognize we have Darren here representing the applicants, and Jolene Rousseau is our planning manager, and she's online as well, and she'll be introducing the application for you. But we're happy to answer any questions you might have. So go ahead, Jolene.
Yes, thank you. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Yes, we can.
Okay. So I'm getting a little feedback. Are you getting that?
We're not. You sound loud and clear for us.
Okay. Perfect. So yes, stellar introduction to the application. Thank you. So this is a development variance request to construct an accessory structure for a building that is 5 feet taller than what's permitted in the zoning bylaw. The parcel is a strata lot and it's zoned acreage residential, and it's just under half an acre. The lot itself is accessed off of an internal strata road, and the proposed accessory structure has been designed to have a minimal impact on neighbors. Being that the tallest portion of the building is to be located to the lot adjacent to it that serves as the community strata septic system lot. As noted, the applicant has received 2 letters of support by adjacent neighbors. And as part of this application process, there will be a notification to all adjacent properties within 100 meters radius of the property. And Darren Smith is here if you have any questions.
Thanks, Lee. Do you want to add any comments to that, Darren?
I think it's pretty much covered. I think, yeah, no, we tried to keep the building as low as we could with a slope of 212, and then obviously the tallest wall of the building facing the common property, which is a septic area. So at least, you know, the least amount of impact for any neighbors. The property also drops about 8 feet from where the house location is. So the shop or accessory building is actually 8 feet lower, you know, at ground level than what the house would be. So we're just trying to minimize, you know, any impact to the neighbors. And we do need the height just so he can, the owner can fit his boat in there. And that's why we are going for the extra height. So.
I'd like to ask a question if nobody else has one. You've got 17 feet from the apron or entrance to the garage to the edge of the property. Where's the septic field there?
So the septic field is on the common property, so it's not on our property at all. So looking at, if you're standing on the road looking at the house, the shop sits behind the house and the septic area sits to the right of the house.
Okay, so 17 feet, just a follow-up question to that. Do you have enough turning radius to be able to maneuver up and back in a boat, or are you going to have to veer off onto the neighboring property to be able to accommodate that?
It's definitely going to be tight in there, which we had talked about. The owner figures he can do it, but I thought it was a little bit tight, but he says he can get it in there, and whether he can use that common property for that, I don't know that answer. So
I think the question where I'm going with this is there a septic field that you're going to end up having to drive around onto to be able to maneuver?
no, there's actually a road right in between the septic field and his property. So, and it's been driven on lots before, and the septic field has all been, you can definitely see the area, so it's not drivable. So, yeah.
Thank you. Are there any other questions or comments? Will anyone make a motion to either adopt or reject this application? Okay.
What's the neighbor notification?
Yeah, just to be clear. So this would be the first step in the process. The APC would be passing a motion to support that public input process. Thanks.
Okay, got a seconder. All in favor? Motion's carried.
Okay, thanks, Darren. So just so you know that this application will go to the board meeting on February 25th, which is next Wednesday, and the board will consider the application along with the support from the APC. If they move ahead with it, then the next step would be that neighbor notification that we're talking about, and then we will bring all those comments back to the board meeting in March.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, our second application is the TUP temporary use permit number 25013 at 10411 Marina Vista Drive. And there the temporary use permit is a request to operate a short-term rental for a 3-bedroom single-family dwelling with a shop and a 2-car garage underneath and a workshop. And the lower area, and then there's 1,500 square feet of living area up above. And that's during a period of May to, I believe it's September. Are there any comments from the
Staff, yeah, happy to. And I'll also recognize that the Taylor Staywell is here with us to help answer any questions, but I will pass this one over to Julian as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, so this is a temporary use request to accommodate a short-term rental or vacation rental. They're looking to operate 2 of the 3 bedrooms in the single-family house from May through to September. The property is another strata lot. This one is zoned single-family residential, and it's serviced by way of a community strata water and sewage disposal systems. The proponent proposes to have 2 parking stalls on site to accommodate the vacation rental. And as a condition of the temporary use permit, boat trailer parking would be prohibited on Marina Vista Road. If approved, the TUP would be permitted to operate for 3 years with the potential to request a renewal for an additional 3 years. And the short-term rental would need to be registered with the province. The house is currently under construction, although it is anticipated to be finalized soon by way of an occupancy permit, which is a condition of the proposed temporary use permit. At present, there are 2 issued temporary use permits for short-term vacation rentals on Marina Vista Drive, and there is an additional temporary use permit application for the same purpose on that road that is currently on hold. If the APC is requested to make a motion on the application, the next step would then be public notice and taking it to the board for consideration. Taylor is available to answer any questions, as Alex has indicated.
Do you want to add anything, Taylor, or are we good?
I think you're covered there. Pretty straightforward. Definitely happy to answer any questions.
Okay, any questions? I see Penny.
Thank you. To the applicant, was this structure built for rental purposes to begin with? Thanks.
No.
So it's being built and no one's moving into it? Or,
Well, it's only short-term rental for the period of the summertime. So yes, they'll be occupied for the rest of the year.
so I have concerns with all of those we have another application coming that has a zoning of hotel or short-term rental use, where all of those upper houses in that subdivision back in the day were done so that there was affordable housing built, so that people could actually live at Sproat Lake and afford to live there. We already have 2 temporary use permits that have been approved. This is a 3rd, and we're hearing a 4th. And it sounds like the whole upper housing that's been built there is being built for rental use, not for residential use full-time. We're in a housing crisis and people need to have houses. So I'm just trying to understand why a place that's not even built yet is already asking for a temporary use permit. Just can't understand that.
Okay. Well, we had a place in Tall Timbers for 25 years as a family, and we sold that property and we bought a property on the lake. My parents lived there full time. Now there's 11 of us. My brother has 2 kids, I have 2 kids, and we need more space if we want to all get together and enjoy the lake. So we bought this property, my brother and myself, to build a home where we can use this property and continue to enjoy the lake. But with the expensive, taxes and everything costs more. I work a lot of the time out of town during the summer. I work in Alberta. I work up and down the island. I would love to say that I can stay at Sproat Lake all summer long, but that's not the case. So to help with the supplementing of, the higher taxation, I would rent out the property when I'm not able to use it.
Or any other, are you good with that? Any other questions or comments? Roberta?
I'm just curious, it says you're gonna rent 2 of the 3 bedrooms, but to a maximum of 4 people. Is this your rules or regional district rules?
So I don't think there are any rules with how many bedrooms you want to rent. That would be a provincial ruling that I don't think ACRD is a part of, because I don't think you got grouped into the provincial rules. But in other jurisdictions, you can't do Airbnb with unless it's your primary residence.
Okay.
I will clarify that as well. So the terms of the temporary use permit do include a maximum of a 2-bedroom rental, and that's to be consistent with the other rentals that we've seen on Marina Vista Drive. So Taylor's right in that the provincial rules aren't applied to the electoral areas we have, but we can set the conditions of the temporary use permit, and one of those conditions would be maximum occupancy of 4 people in this rental, and that is to deal with the servicing. I mean, the septic system is shared amongst the 10 lots there, and it would be consistent with what we have in the other permits that have been issued in that area.
Okay.
Go ahead.
I have been talking to people up at the hospital, and we don't have enough people who can live and work in Port Alberni to keep the hospital fully staffed. And I'm really starting to think that all of these temporary use permits have just gone too far. And I wonder if you're holding on to that property as some place that the family can eventually gather, but you can't use it right now, why not rent it out long term to somebody? And that way it's still your property, you can keep it in your family. If you're not willing to move in, why not rent it out long term?
Because if you look at the terms, there's only a few months that it's possible to rent it for the short term. So technically, yes, the property is going to be occupied for the remainder of the year. And actually, I can choose what dates it gets rented in the summer. It might not even be rented all summer. It might only be a few weeks or months that it gets rented in the summer. As well as the lake is very expensive for people to rent on already. If you have a lakefront property, it's very expensive. So this actually gives people an opportunity to rent and get and use the lake for a much cheaper price, because you're not on the lake. We're not even on the lakefront. So those properties are like $1,000 a night. I have friends that try to get and use the lake, and they rent those properties on the lakefront, and they're super expensive. So this is actually an opportunity for people to be able to use the lake for a cheaper price. As well as, I don't think somebody is going to live out by the lake if they're working at the hospital necessarily anyways. Like, I don't think I'm taking away from housing. This isn't really an affordable house, in my opinion. The house is valued at $900,000 if you look at, BC assessment. This isn't an affordable house, so I don't think I'm taking away affordable housing, in my opinion, but maybe we have different ideas of what affordable housing is.
Thank you, Taylor. And also just to jump in on the conditions as well, I should have mentioned it earlier, but the TUP would be valid for the 5 months from May 1st to the end of September. So there would be 7 months of the year that they would not be able to operate that as a short-term rental, and there may be some short-term housing opportunities there that could come up.
Are there any other questions? for comments? I have one, just a short one, but I think we asked that for each of the TUPs that have come along for that area. Well, actually two questions. It's for 2 bedrooms. How do you police it that that's not going to be used for a spillover for the third bedroom? Is there a mechanism for that?
So once they, if the temporary use permit is issued, they do need to register as a host with the province. So anybody that is operating has to be registered as a host, and in doing so, we can look at their listings to make sure that it's only listed for the 4-person occupancy. That would be the way that we would do that. And then of course our enforcement process is a complaint-based process. So if a temporary use permit is being used in excess of what the conditions would allow, then we would, we received a complaint from a neighbor, we would engage the property owner and make sure that any rules that should be followed are being followed.
And one last follow-up question. The marina that's down on the water itself, is there any tie-up that's provided as part of the rental, the TUP, for anybody bringing in their own boats and tying up at the marina? Is that part of the deal?
For the boat slips, I don't think they're insured for people to bring their boats for rental. So I don't think that's part of any of the Airbnbs on the street, the current one.
Anyone else? Anyone want to make a motion to either accept or reject this application?
And once again, I just want to remind the APC that it would be the next step in the process would be neighbor notification process. So if the APC supports it and the board supports it, that would be the next process for us to engage those neighbors.
Okay. Roberta's moving it to do what? Okay, we have a motion on the floor to put this TUP to the next step for public or the neighborhood notification. Is there a seconder? Okay, we have a seconder. All in favor? Those against? Would you like your objection recorded? Okay.
I see. So that motion does pass, Taylor. So this application will go to the board on next Wednesday, and the comments will be included in the report, so we can let you know the outcome of that meeting. And like I said, if the board moves it to the next step, we'll be sending out letters to everybody within 100 meters, and then we'll compile those comments and bring it back to the board in March.
Okay. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you.
And Taylor's still there. So the application is Don Saywell and this is Taylor Saywell. This is Taylor's house.
Yes, it is a family-owned property. I just can't remember if the ownership's under the company name or yeah, it's under a company name. Would be why.
Okay, our third application is a big one. And it is in fact an amendment to a current zoning C6, which is tourist commercial. And the original, I think, zoning was done in, what was it, 2008, I believe. And then it was for 10 dwellings, and now we're going to for 11 dwellings, 4 duplexes and 3 single units. And initially, the zoning was for floor areas of 1,200 square feet, and now it's being increased to 2,000 square feet, which can be used either as dwellings or short-term vacation rentals. So, is there any additional comments about that? I think we have a demonstration, a live demonstration.
Yeah, I would be happy to introduce it. Then we can certainly invite the applicants. We have a number of applicants here, so it's good to see Sean and Chris from the property owners, and then we also have Rachel and Neil from Prism Land Surveying. But essentially, as you heard from Walter, this is a property that many of you might remember from previous iterations of development applications, and also on Marina Vista Drive and Alden Road, just south of the previous application. So the zoning is C6, which allows, it's our tourist commercial hotel motel zone. So it allows for short-term rental accommodation in there. There is a covenant, or a couple covenants, that are registered on the property that limit the scale of the development. And so the applicants are now making an application to amend those. And so the number of units that would be permitted would go from 10 to 11. The maximum floor area, as you heard, would go for each of those units would go from 1,200 square feet to 2,000 square feet within the living area, and that excludes garages and carports and porch areas, for example. It would allow their intended subdivision of those units as well. So they would be building strata lots, I believe, and individually titled so they can be sold. It would also allow for an additional access into the property. One of the covenants limited the number of road accesses from Alden to 1. So if you look at your site plan that we've included in the agenda, they do intend to do 2 separate roads off of Alden to access those units. And those units would be split into, as it's proposed right now, would be 4 duplexes and 3 single family dwellings. And that's included in the imagery you have here today, and also in your agenda. The one last sort of housekeeping amendment that would be included would be to align the covenant boundary with the current zoning. There was a discrepancy when that boundary was surveyed, when the zoning was done in 2008. So that would adjust that so it matched that C6 zoned area down in the southeast corner of the property. Now, this one would be all of the units would be north of Lakeshore Road. This property is just over 2 acres, and it is split by Lakeshore Road, goes right through the bottom half of it. That area below the road would continue to be used as a gravel parking area for the marina uses that are located off the foreshore of the property, and there are some commercial uses associated with that. But given that the new development would be located on the high side of the road, it would be located outside of the 200-year flood level, so there'd be no issues with floodplain development there. Also, I would highlight that they have engaged a geotechnical engineer already to confirm that the site would be safe for their intended development. They've also engaged a wastewater professional who's designed a system that would be located up in the northwest corner of the property. So all of these units would be serviced by a communal system, sewage disposal system, and there's also a communal water system that is licensed by Island Health to service the remainder of the development. It would be scaled up to allow for these 21 dwelling units as well. A part of the process will be a referral to the fire department. We'll want to make sure that the road accesses into the property are suitable for emergency access vehicles. I will highlight that the covenant would allow for 20-meter wide roads into there, so there should be plenty of room to allow for that. And there will be parking that will be required as well. And yeah, I think I'll leave it at that. I think, from the staff, the process, that's what I wanted to talk about, would be the amendment of a covenant. Because the covenant relates to land use and it's an agreement between the ACRD and the owner, the process that we follow is to hold a public hearing, and that would be similar to what a rezoning or an OCP amendment application would be. So what we're asking the board to consider and this APC to consider would be a delegation of the public hearing to be held, or public meeting in the form of a public hearing. And then we would be notifying the neighbors, advertising as such, gathering all the input on whether the amendment would be appropriate, and then allowing the board to make the final decision on that amendment application. So it would mirror how we handle a rezoning application, just without the bylaw readings and the some of the process involved. At this point, planning staff do recommend that we proceed with the public hearing, so we can get some comments from the neighbors, and do recognize that, you know, this would provide a diversity of housing types and housing building types in the region. You know, having the duplex units and the clustered development on the site, I think, provides a different housing style than we would normally see in that area. With that, I think you heard enough from me. Rachel, Neil, Chris, Sean, do you like first comments? Go ahead, Rachel. Sure, if you could move up there, it'd be great.
So good evening. My name is Rachel Hamling from Prism Land Surveying. And as Alex mentioned, we're here with Chris McNichol, Sean Lingle, the property owners, and Neil Bowder is the land surveyor. So we're also here to, any of us can answer any of the questions at the end as well. So we really appreciate the commission taking the time to review this project on this property again. So the purpose of this application today is fairly straightforward. We're seeking amendments to the 2 existing restrictive covenants to allow for a modest 11-unit residential development on the north side of Lakeshore Road. So these, as Alex mentioned, these covenants were registered back in 2008. And this was tied to another development that just never proceeded. So what we're proposing is more responsive to the site as it exists today, and it aligns with the Tourist 6 zoning already in place. So the site is approximately 0.85 hectares and is bisected by Lakeshore Road. You can see it on the site plan there. The northern portion is currently cleared and vacant, and it gently slopes upward away from Sproat Lake. So because of the natural topography, the development will take on a bit of a stadium style configuration, meaning that the homes will step up the slope rather than sitting on a flat plane. And one of the key strengths of this application is that it is using existing infrastructure. There is a shared water system located on the property that currently services the 10 Fairland strata lots to the north. But this system was actually originally designed for 21 units. So with only 10 being connected today, there's a capacity for 11 additional units. So this really aligns with what we're proposing. So we're making use of the capacity that already exists. The proposal is for 11 residential units consisting of 4 duplex buildings and 3 single-family residences. So the 3 single-family residences are on the top of the north side, and you'll see that the duplexes are in the middle and lower levels there. They will be developed using a building strata, so that means that they can be individually owned. The duplex allows for the use of the land efficiently while increasing the spacing, increases the spacing between the buildings, so it allows for more landscaping and also view corridors. And so we are also we're requesting an increase in the size of the allowable buildings to 2,000 square feet. And this is intentional. Homes of that size create opportunities for families to live there full time, to raise their kids, to put down some roots and really enjoy the Sproat Lake community. So the proposed square footage really does allow for that opportunity for homeowners to have this as a really good option for permanent residence. Architecturally, the buildings were designed as a West Coast contemporary style with 4 12-pitch roof lines. So this is low profile. So combined with the natural upward slope of the site, the stadium style layout, and the reduced roof pitch, these all really work together to provide like very low disruption to the neighboring views to the north. That's the goal. It's also important to note that the neighboring properties to the north benefit from an existing easement that provides direct access to the beach and the Sproat Lake. Then that access will remain unchanged. You'll notice from the renderings that exterior materials would include a board and batten siding, timber accents, some stone detailing, and neutral color palettes with flat framed windows. And the large sliding glass doors leading onto the balcony really adds to that indoor outdoor living. Lighting would also be designed to be downward facing to promote a darker sky. And each unit will include one enclosed garage area, so you can park in the garage if you like, and will also have enough area for one additional parking space. And so it also should be noted that should the amendments be approved, form and character development permit will also would still be required. So this would come back to the ACRD for more tweaking and comments about the facade as well as civil engineering drawings for grading, access, road design, and utilities would also be submitted to both the ACRD and Ministry of Transportation and Transit through the development process. So just a quick summary of the covenant amendments. For covenant FB 194076, that one covenant we're requesting an increase in the maximum dwelling units from 10 to 11. And that really works with like the duplex style. We're able to accommodate that. Also works with the existing water services on property. We're also requesting an increase in allowable unit size to 2,000 square feet to give more flexibility and potentially for families as well. We're also asking for permission to subdivide into the 11 strata lots. And as Alex mentioned, there'd be an adjustment in the covenant boundary to align with the existing zoning boundary. And for the second covenant, FB 194074, we were requesting permission for 2 20-meter accesses north of Lakeshore Road through the vegetated leaf strip. So if you'll notice here, I'm not sure if that's clear, off Alden Road. It's also important to note on that topic that the Ministry of Transportation and Transit have also reviewed this, and we have a written letter of support from them. And also to note that an access permit from Ministry of Transportation also, we would go through that permitting process as well. And from a technical point of view, B4 Engineering has confirmed that the septic servicing could be in the area shown on site plan. That's at the northwest corner. It would be farthest away from the lake, so it was really looked at that area to bring that up from the lake. And Risic Geotechnical has confirmed again that all dwelling units would be above the flood construction level. And so they were saying that the all the uses would meet their approval there. So just to conclude here, overall, this was a carefully considered proposal that works with the land. It utilizes existing infrastructure. It introduces a modest family-oriented housing while being mindful to the neighboring properties and views. So we appreciate your time tonight, and we look forward to any of us can answer any questions you may have.
Okay, Roberta.
You'd mentioned families. I see the structures. They look like they take up most of the property. Like, is there any yard allowance? I'm not seeing it on this, maybe because it's so tiny. But
I guess in the development itself, they'll be quite compact with more landscaping, but it with the proximity to the lake itself. I feel that's where maybe families would gravitate to.
Well, I'm thinking more on a daily basis.
Mhm.
And if it was a family with young children, they're not going to be down at the lake with the mom and dad there. Like I'm thinking of a yard situation. Can you tell me what there is in
Yeah, for sure.
It's 3 houses.
yeah,
You want to
okay.
Yeah, no worries.
If you have more to say, you should come up.
Yeah, okay, sorry about that. Yeah, so the three, staying back, the three single dwelling units will have a backyard, and then the other, we call them paired homes or duplexes, they will have an area out in front, beside, down between the roadway and then to the next housing. So if you take a look at, obviously I have kids and I have grandkids and stuff like that. So, and then like say, depending on fencing and stuff, that there will be a yard. Will it be a massive yard? No, but it's definitely, definitely a yard where you can raise a family. Thank you.
I have a quick question. This subdivision or this change that we're talking about here is for this entire lot A, is that correct?
Yes, it would be on the development itself will be on the northern section, so it would essentially create
But it encompasses the entire lot A. So then tell me, on this sketch here, we have a cutout for a store on that same piece of property, and I believe you show that there as well. Now, is that part of this request as well, or are we just basically talking about the 11 unit housing portion, and are we taking a cutout out of this part of the lot A?
where that is actually a different zone. It's part of the same property, but it's a MAR2 zone. So there is a different set of zoning allowances for that area. So that is, I think, up in the air right now, or it's not probably going to happen with this little store, but right now we're really just focusing on houses. If there was a little I don't think that has been completely sorted out, or
Yeah, and just to follow up with that as well, so the covenant already allows the store as well. So the amendments to the covenant that we would be looking at would be to increase the number of residential units from 10 to 11. It already speaks to the non-residential structure or the store in there, and the zoning allows for that. So it gives them the flexibility to build that in the future if they'd like to, and there'd be no changes needed in the covenant to make that happen.
Thank you. I wondered about what that cutout was.
This property's been around for some time, obviously. And then back in 2008, there was some major issues with this property. And in 2008, there's two covenants that were signed with the owner and with the regional district. And maybe it's a question more for Alex, but I thought if a covenant was put in place, then the covenant was there to stand. So I'm reading part of your covenant, item number 13. And it says the restrictions in covenant herein contained shall be covenants running with the land and shall be perpetual, and shall continue to bind all the lands even if subdivided, and shall be registered in the Victoria Land Title Office pursuant to section 219 of the Land Title Act as covenants in favor of the grantee. So we're talking today about changing those covenants. And when I'm reading the covenant, it's there in perpetual. So I'm not sure just how we do that. And then you're suggesting a bunch of changes from the covenant from 10 units to 11 units. You're changing it from 1,200 square feet to 2,000 square feet. So is this something that in fact can happen, or do we have to live with the covenant that's there?
Good question, Renee. And I mean, this is why we have the application process to make the change, right? The idea is that once restrictive covenant is registered on the title, one party can't decide to remove that. So that is it's an agreement between both parties, the ACRD being one and the property owner being the other one. Obviously, in 2008, there was a different development that was proposed at the time that, you know, this covenant related more closely to. That development never went ahead, or at least this phase of the development never went ahead. So now, you know, almost 20 years later, we're into there's a new ownership group. They've got a different plan to be made. We can, because it's an agreement between the ACRD, which is a public body, obviously, and the owners, the application process allows for some public input on that, where we can ask those types of questions about, you know, whether we want to see these types of changes, ask the neighbors, you know, for their input on that. But ultimately, it's up to the ACRD board to make the decision on whether to amend it, and then they've assigned authority for the officers to sign off on that, right? So I agree that, you know, the language in restrictive covenants is like that for a reason, so that we can't decide at the whim of our feelings of the day to make a change, but there is an application process to make those changes. And then once the covenant, if this moves ahead and the covenant is amended, that again the new one gets deposited with the land title office, and then that runs with the land from there on out.
So would we have a new covenant then? So then a covenant, does that mean very much then if we can easily alter it?
Well, I mean, I would equate it to a zoning bylaw as well, right? I mean, the zoning runs with the land until a bylaw is adopted by the ACRD board to change it. So it really, in my view, the covenant amendment process really mirrors a rezoning process, for that fact that the covenant restricts the land use, zoning restricts the land use, and both of those have an application process to make changes there if the ACRD supports it.
Okay, so just so I understand how it works, I'm a little surprised we can change it actually. But
Any other comments or questions?
Sherry, I saw your hand, I think.
I'm really quite deeply concerned of the density that this is putting into the area. I can't remember, it was 0.85 hectares or something like that. It's very crowded on the site plan, and I'm concerned that if this one goes through, the neighbor goes through the same way the neighbor goes through, and we've got entirely way too much population in a rural area. Sprout Lake Area D is a rural area, and I'm concerned that we're now making it non-rural with this density. That's it.
Thank you, Sherry. Any comments or questions?
Well, I just follow up on that. Is for C6, is there such a thing as a lot coverage ratio? I mean, we do have 0.6 of a hectare there, and we'll have 11 properties at 2,000 square feet, whatever that comes out to. And how does that compare? How does that coverage ratio apply insofar as your footprint on the property and in your follow-up to your comment about no yard space for kids?
Yeah, there is no lot coverage in the C6 zone. So I don't want to speak for what the planners did in 2008, because that was a year before I started here. But what's often the case, there are no restrictions in the C6 zone about the number of units or what the floor area ratio would be or what the lot coverage would be. So it's likely that the covenant was put in place to create those limits, right? Because if there was no covenant here, then it's simply a building permit application to deal with a hotel or motel type of use, right? So with the C6 zone, we have 20-foot setbacks from the front and the rear and 15 from the sides. But beyond that, there's no maximum lot coverage and there's no floor area requirements as well. So the covenant that's in place does introduce those restrictions, and then what they've applied for is a relaxation in you know what those restrictions are.
I actually
don't often disagree with Sherry, but I'm going to this time. I think that this zoning is a perfect place to densify. I think that this is a great little development. I mean, we all started out in small houses with little kids, and this could be a good infusion of new life to the community. I mean, I look around and we're all older, but where are the kids going to come from?
Okay, Renee, go ahead.
I don't know if this is getting specific or not, but um, a friend of mine, or also a APC member that's not able to be here tonight, wondered about the water system. Um, his understanding is each strata has to have its own water system. And then now are we going to have two stratas, or we're going to have a strata for the people that were there before, and we're going to have a strata for this particular property? And if we have two stratas, does each one not have to have its own separate water system? And I just, that's what was suggested to me, and I'm asking because I don't know the answer.
Chris might have a little bit more on this, but McGill Engineering is working on the water allocation right now. It is a shared system and will continue to be shared between the strata owners and combined with maintenance of the unit. So it's already in place. It was designated for a strata development such as this. So the workings are in place, but again, with part of the approval process that will be completely nailed down. And like I mentioned, McGill Engineering is actively working on
that as well. Just that it was designed. Yeah, sorry. The system was designed back in 2008, or when they did the development, for 21 units. 10 have already been done. So when we looked at this development, it was to not change the whole system for the water system. My background is pumps, like that's what I do for a living. So it's water treatment, all of those things. So obviously we know the expense of trying to redo a whole water system. So when we looked at it, it was designed for 21. It fit what we were trying to do in Sproat Lake. Obviously, I was the president, not of matters, but I was the president of the water ski club, and so I care about the lake. Sean, my partner, is the same thing. We all have kids, we all have grandkids. So when we looked at this development, when we bought it, it was trying to make it so more kid friendly, more family friendly, and you nailed it. As we all get older, where is the next generation going to come from? And that's how we looked at it. We know the people that put the application before. I think they were trying to go for 16 or 20 units. We looked at it and said, you know, sure, everyone likes money, but that's not what this was about. This was about trying to make it so everybody can raise a family there. So back to the water system really quickly. 21 units. There's 10. That's why we went to 11. So it falls in line with the current that's already there for the water system. I hope I answered the question.
The question was, can you have one water system for two stratas? That's really the question.
So right now, McGill is going through all of that, and that will be. I think that the whole idea is we're going to have one strata for the whole water system and not have two separate ones. So that answers the question.
Good, thank you.
And ultimately it's Island Health that will be the regulatory authority on that. So they would, I know McGill has lots of experience in making these types of applications with Island Health. So they will work closely with them. They've got the drinking water health officer locally here. So you know, it might be that the permit has to be issued to one or two stratas, but it's not uncommon for us to deal with things like that.
Len, has a question. What about the septic field plan? What does that look like? That's always of higher concern to Tishat.
But you'd mentioned the septic design. Is there any more detail on that?
B4 Engineering, they're actually a company out of Sioux. We deal with them quite often. We have been engaged with them. They've been out, they've looked at the site, and we've noted that area. They said, you know, we can accommodate septic on that area that was identified on the site plan. It was also put there strategically because it was basically the farthest way from the lake. So we thought that for environmental protection, that would be a better option. So yes, it has definitely been looked at again through the development process. Should the amendments, you know, we continue down the path for this specific development, septic filings would be again regulated with Island Health.
Yeah, thank you, and thanks for the question, Len. That's is always a concern of ours as well. And just looking at the map, it's about 150 meters or so away from the lake. So I do think, you know, from the types of development we've seen at Sproat Lake, I think that's the way to do it, is to put it up on the high side of the property. Of course, have it designed appropriately.
Any other comments?
Is it a pump and haul system? It looks like a small area.
I don't believe a pump and haul system would be at all something that would be considered. It would be a more of a traditional, like as the types you go up, the smaller areas it can go. So it'd be quite a sophisticated design, but I've never heard anything about a pump and haul for this specific site.
It'd be interesting to see what the design for that is. Another down the road, there's another multi-unit facility development that their septic was supposed to be top of the line and it failed. So I'm just wondering what kind of system that could be put in here for this amount of units. And would anything be added to this septic system from the marina? I think you still have porta potties or whatever right now to accommodate the marina people, or is there nothing there?
I think this would be the septic design for the units would be completely separate from anything that would happen at the marina side. I don't know if you have any more thoughts or what's happening there now, but
at this time we have just porta potties, and we're going to upgrade those to like a trailer type unit to make it a little bit better. But right now, porta potties and there'd be nothing coming from the marina up to the properties at all.
My concern was just that this is all one piece of property, and I just wondered if you were going to upgrade that. So if you've got a trailer, would it be a pump and haul then?
It would be on its own. It would hold its own tank. It would be a rented unit.
Okay.
Yeah, it should be all in one separate unit.
But you wouldn't be putting it into the ground.
Definitely.
Yeah. Okay, that's great.
All self-contained.
Okay, I have a couple more questions. Thank you. So I was wondering about lot coverage percentage, but you answered that. There was a question from Mark also about parking. Because he said that there should be one parking space for each bedroom, so rented. So if there's 2 bedrooms, there should be 2 parking spaces. And I'm just wondering if there's additional parking going to be down in the store area for people that are staying here, or how the parking accommodation was. That Mark had a question about that.
do you want to take that one? I know you have a vision, and we briefly talked about the parking.
Yeah, so each house would have their own park installed for a car inside, and then also one on the street. Plus, well, obviously, when we're doing this development, if you've been around there, we're going to clean that rate up, and we're going to make additional. Once we clean up the foreshore, we're going to clean up that area to make better parking stalls to try and maximize the amount of space there. Or if there's the marina, obviously, but and if there's extra parking needed, but we really want to keep it there for the general public to use the marina. That's really what we're trying to do, is find that area.
So with the marina, would there be could people here then buy rent a boat stall?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, like we have rental spaces, and anybody that has that buys a unit would have probably first rights of refusal on any spots that were available. Sure.
Thank you. I'm really happy to see that this is being recommended for a public meeting rather than just going to public hearing. It answers so many questions for the public and is better for a public hearing. I just wondered also about, got some questions here. So, dwelling units. So it says between 4 duplexes and 3 single family dwellings. And then further down on, this is page, I don't know what page it is, 32. It talks about parking spaces for a motel hotel dwelling unit. So in my mind, it's kind of 2 separate things. So how is the taxation on this? Is it commercial or is it residential?
So the zoning is commercial. So I'm not sure how PC assessment would assess the rates of this. If, like, I know historically, if the use is commercial, or sorry, if the zoning is commercial but the use is residential, they'll assign residential uses. I think with this one, it's probably likely going to be a commercial use because they'll have the flexibility to to either live in it or to rent it out on a short-term basis.
So
But
with-
again, that's up to PC assessment. That's not something that the regional district determines.
Well, wouldn't that be coming back to us then at taxation time where people can come to the board and say, this is my residence?
Yeah, well, and if somebody's declaring it as a residence, then I think that it would be taxed at a residential use, right? But yes, absolutely, that does come to the board annually about how those rates are assessed and how it changes from year to year. So that would be something that we would see for them.
I'm just saying that, you know, like, I don't know if it could be a problem for you down the road. I'm just wondering about that. Making sure that people who, because you're going to strata and sell all these units, are people understanding what they're buying is what my concern is.
With regard to what they're buying, I would say when people do their due diligence as well and working with their professional, either with their realtor and their lawyer, typically they go through zoning and any covenants or charges on title that should be fully disclosed. So I would think through the selling process that would be a conversation that potential owners would have. Even the form of tenure, being a building strata versus fee simple or barrel on strata, it would be very quite clear on the legal plans of what that is. So I would feel that would also come up in the course of a sale.
Before we move in, I know we have another comment online from Len, if you want to.
Yeah, Len just said that you want to see a top of the line septic system. Check out Mark Marley's development right beside the Great Central Lake. It has to exceed the high standards for the shot to approve this referral.
Okay. Thanks, Len.
Renee?
Thank you. I'm a little back to the parking. Quick calculation is there's 11 units, 2 cars per unit. That's 22 cars. So we got room for 22 cars in there. It's gonna be pretty tight. And then if they have a friend coming, where are they gonna park?
So there is the garage, so maybe perhaps the owner could park in the garage, and then there would be a space on every driveway for an additional car. And then I think that's what Chris was touching on too, that they're cleaning up the parking area on the marina side as well. So there'll be additional parking there for perhaps overflow guests, and of course the the people that are visiting the marina there as well.
So just a minute ago, we talked about this being separate from the marina development. Now we're talking about the marina area being used for parking. I thought we were two different areas here we were talking about.
So it's one property, with two different zones. So on the development we're talking about today, north side, it has the tourist commercial zone. That's where we have the covenants for the density in the homes. And then as part of the same property, we have the MAR zone, which leaves an opportunity, like we talked about, for perhaps a store in the future. I'm not sure if that's going to come to fruition, but then also parking. You know, is one property, so they could perhaps use that same area. One property, but it will be divided somewhat through a building strata.
Yeah, and the zoning does have, the zoning has minimum parking requirements, right? And that's that 1.1 units or 1.1 spaces per unit. So fairly minimal, I would say, in the zoning. So that's about 13 off-street parking spaces, and that's in excess of what would be in the garage, if that makes sense. So it would be one of the things that we would want to look at specifically at the form of character stage. So if the covenant is amended and this moves ahead to a building design process, they do have to make the development permit application, and that allows us the opportunity to look at you know, all the cladding, how the buildings look, and how it's accessed, but also whether they have the parking in the right spaces and in the right size. So that really is kind of a technical matter that we would be looking at that stage, and they are providing enough space in the access roads to allow for that. We should have to make sure as a regional district that when they get to that point, that they do have the spaces dedicated.
Thank you. I have one more. The road that goes there is Alden Road. I think I pronounced it correctly. Sure. Alden Road is not a very wide road. And so back to the parking issue, it's a concern that when people come and visit, they'll probably want to park along Alden Road, which is not a very big road. And so should they really put a no parking sign all along that road? So it's not congested with cars, and if the fire department has to come, it's not congested, they can get through. So is that something that would be considered?
Yeah, so a couple things come to mind. So Alden Road is a full 20-meter wide road width. So sometimes the travel portion of a road, it may not seem wide, but it is a full 20-meter wide. No. Do you want to talk about? And also there will be access permits required by Ministry of Transportation. That would be something that'd be considered as well.
Yeah, sorry, I'll just say it. Yeah, sorry, Alden Road is a half-width road. It's only half-width. As Alex has said, we're meeting the parking requirements on site, and there's gonna be additional parking on the common property of the south side of Lakeshore and on the north side as well. So there'll be additional parking there as well. How many spaces depends on the engineering, which we haven't completed at this early stage in development right now.
Okay, it's just a concern about parking again, because it seems all of a sudden in the summertime, especially, a lot of people show up. And then the other thing that seems to happen is boat trailers seem to show up. So I don't see any area either for boat trailers. So it's just concern for us that this is going to get really congested. And so how do we deal with it? So to me, the time to deal with it is now and not after it happens. So that's why I'm bringing it up. Thank you.
That's a good point, Renee. The last piece on that as well is that this would be referred to the Ministry of Transportation and Transit as well. So we would want them to comment on that ahead of the public meeting. And I know that they do have a letter of support from the ministry already, but that could be something that we flag with them as you know, a matter that we would want them to address as well. And it might be that, you know, I have seen similar things where they've made recommendations about not parking on the shoulder of a certain road if it doesn't meet the width, for example.
I've got a quick question, if I may. Because Alden Road is narrow, and I see that there's going to be 3 arteries with dead ends all the way up to the Lakeshore Road, or pardon me, up to the highway. For a fire truck to get in there, are we going to have, are you planning on having any fire hydrants anywhere along here? Or does a fire truck have to come all the way into each artery to be able to fight a fire? And with the type of delivery of water constantly, there's going to be a lot of traffic back and forth. You're not going to be able to get a fire truck and tanker truck to shuttle back and forth here if there is any kind of a fire going on. I'm hoping that somehow the fire department is going to have a good look at this and decide on what to do. I know there was a subdivision that I had a very small involvement with, but that was being developed, and the fire department of the day was asking for them to be a turnaround at the end, which was, I think, about 100-foot diameter circle, so that a fire truck could in fact turn around and peel out of there if need be.
So the Sproat Lake Fire Department would be a part of the referral process as well. So we'll want to make sure that we get positive comments from them ahead of the public hearing, and we would want them first and foremost to confirm that they have the access available. And I do see that one of the roads kind of has like a turnaround built into it. We would send this plan specifically to the fire chief and make sure we go through it with them in detail, and probably attend the site as well before they get those comments. The other thing on the water delivery, so the Sproat Lake Fire Department in particular has a lot of experience with shuttling water. Obviously, there's no community water systems in Sproat Lake other than these private water systems. So it may be that they ask for, in a situation like this where we do have water services on this site, they might be asking for some infrastructure to be included as part of the development, and that would be something I would want to ask them about.
Yes, Alice, that is something we've also talked about, fire suppression within the homes themselves. That also plays a part in spatial separation. So there's not necessarily a designated setback between the units, but spatial separation does come into play. That's a calculation that's done based on, say, the number of windows on the side of the building and what the materials are, and those setbacks can change depending on if there is if these places are sprinklered. So again, that would also ease some concern with regard to fire suppression. But yes, we'd also be looking, again, this is very preliminary. We want to put out a concept. As we kind of discussed, there's many more aspects that will definitely be fine-tuned before through the development process. But we've done our best right now to design it in such a way that we have thought of those things, and we look forward to the referrals. And yes, and my apologies about the road widths. Apologize for that.
Okay, are there any other comments to be brought forward? Going once, going twice? Would anybody, and the intention here would be, if the next step would be to go to a public hearing, is that correct? With a public meeting, pardon me. Is there anybody who will make a motion in that regard? Sure. Seconder?
Yes, I move that we move towards a public meeting.
Roberta, you've been busy. Thank you. All in favor? Opposed? One opposed. Okay. Motion's carried.
Okay, thanks, everybody. Again, this would go to that meeting next Wednesday on the 25th, and you're welcome to attend the meeting if you like. It is a public meeting. You won't have an opportunity to speak, as you know, but we can certainly let you know the outcome, and the next steps for us after that meeting would be to prepare the referral, send that out to those agencies that we've talked about, and then look at organizing a date for that meeting. Okay, thanks, guys.
Moving right along then. we have one more item on the agenda, and that is the rezoning application RD 25005. That is a property located at 10203 Woodsley Loop. It is a 2 hectare, half an acre property. It's currently zoned as an R1A, and the applicants are proposing to accommodate the area for personal storage for residents in the strata area. To allow for storage of vehicles, RV equipment, and boats on that parcel. It's at this point in time, the proposal is to add a rezoning to a SW3 zone to be able to allow the storage of articles belongings to the people in the strata area, but they will still maintain a residential use designation on the property in the event of any future residential development. So you want to speak to that?
I would love to. Yeah, I almost don't need to add anything to that, Walter. That was great, and thank you, Linda and Richard, for hanging out with us and being patient, and really appreciate you taking the time. But yeah, absolutely, this would be an application that would create a new zone, and it is for a vacant half-acre property that the applicants own. And this family owns a number of the lots in that Woodsley Loop area. And what they're looking to do would be to build a garage basically for their to store their boat on this property. Now, the structure of our zoning bylaw in the residential zones doesn't allow you to build an accessory building before you have the principal building. So you got to build the house first before you build the garage. And it has become a challenge for people like this that own multiple properties and don't intend at this time to build a house, but just want to build a garage. So what we've come up with would be a zone that would allow for that garage to be built as a principal use as well, so they can build the garage without the house. Now there's limitations in there for what the garage is used for. It's to store personal vehicles, personal recreational equipment, boats, for example, for personal use, and then obviously would not be able to be used for any commercial storage or industrial use or anything like that, much like a typical garage would be. In essence, it really just kind of flips the script on being able to build a garage first without having the house. And the zone also maintains the ability to build a house in the future. So if their plans change, or if they do decide to build something on there, or even sell the property, the new owners would have the opportunity to build a house there. So we have drafted a zone for you to consider in the package. The residential storage would be limited to 5% of the lot area, just like an accessory building would, or a maximum of 1,000 square feet, regardless of that lot size. Just recognizing that if it is a larger sort of 5-acre lot, we would not want to see a big building there, or it's really intended for their own personal storage. This would involve a public input process. There would be no public hearing for this, as it doesn't include an official community plan amendment, but there would be a mail out to neighboring residents and property owners and an opportunity to comment on there. Beyond that, I think that is everything that I want to add. Linda and Richard, if you'd like to add anything, please go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, thank you to you and the committee members for inviting us. And my brother Richard, who owns the adjacent properties together with you, was unavailable tonight, but I brought my husband Dennis Williams on my left here, and Dennis is a retired contractor. So he is very valuable to us with regard to how we might erect this this structure. And at the same time, I'd like to thank the staff, which have done a remarkable job with the presentation, with the detailed satellite photo, of the Woodsley Loop property and the proximity to the adjacent properties, as well as the photos of the margins of the land. So just to conclude very briefly, we do have a boathouse on our property, but our old boat broke down a couple of years ago, and we looked around and we decided to buy a new boat, which we found to be too big to fit into the facility that we have. So it occurred to us that we would we have the land, and so we inquired with the district, with staff, and so the suggestion was made that the zoning might be altered to accommodate this garage that would fit the slightly longer boat that we now have. I think the only other thing is that I think you were aware that the structure was less than 1,000, would be less than 1,000 square feet, and that we do have the sign ready to be erected to inform the neighbors. So I'm not sure if Dennis has anything to add to that, but that's the background.
Oh, excuse me. Hello, everybody. Yeah, we would be in, the building would be roughly 30 by 30, so 900 square feet. The pitch would be 412 for the roof. We'd be using hardy board because it's fireproof and a metal roof. And it's slab with a little bit of wall where necessary, but basically it's just a basic structure to accommodate the boat. And you know, the garage door might be 16 feet wide, and I probably would put scissor trusses inside to get some height on the garage interior. But outside of that, it would be a very simple structure. So if anyone's got any questions about it that I could add to, I'd be happy to.
Okay, the floor is open for questioning. I've got one to start with. Your When I first read this, I thought that this was supposed to provide storage space for other people within the ownership of the properties around you. Is this strictly for one person? And I see 1,000 square feet in one spot. I see a 34 by 20 foot structure in another area, and now you're saying 30 by 30. What are we looking at building here on this property?
On the property is a separate piece of property from the other properties, and all we're doing is building a garage big enough to get a trailer and a boat in. That's all. That answers your question. I mean, it's not being shared with anyone else. It doesn't need to be.
I think, Mr. Chair, the 1,000 square feet was derived from the report that had been prepared, because it says in number 7, residential storage shall not exceed a maximum floor area of 1,000 square feet. So I think Dennis was just quoting that because it had been cited in the document.
It would be less than that.
It'd be less than that, yeah.
Go ahead.
This question, I think, is for staff. So an accessory dwelling unit can only be 90 square meters, which is a little bit less than 1,000 square feet. Why are we suddenly going back to square feet? What in round number? I just wonder, it seems like it ought to match.
Fair comment. Yes, and what happens, we also fall into this trap, right? A lot of building is in square feet, and uses are in square meters. So the zone actually quotes a not exceed a maximum floor area of 92.9 square meters, which equates to 1,000 square feet.
Yeah.
You know, that in an ideal world we would be using one system, but that's why we're doing that. We could modify that to be a round number if that would be desired by the board.
Well, and then you it just seems to make a little bit more sense since we've already got this size out on the books for other places. I don't know. It just maybe that's just me, but it's jarring. Sorry.
Renee, go ahead.
I guess I'm a little bit old school. I still like the square footage. And I think it's really good that you put it both ways, that you put square meters and square feet. So I think it's excellent. The same thing that goes for hectares and acres. I think it's really good as well.
Yes.
Because we still think of acres, or I do. Maybe you guys think of hectares. I have to transpose all the time. So I think it's really good to do that. So don't stop doing that, Alex. The other thing, just a comment I would tell to the nice people here making the application, that I always find that once you build a building a certain size, and then about 2 years later, you say, why didn't I build it a little bit bigger? It's just a thought for you.
Well, I could answer, I could speak to that. Rather than going 28 by 28 and then the trailer's hard to get in, we just went the extra 2 feet to go 30 by 30 so we don't have a problem. And that always happens, that everyone could always use a little bit of extra square footage or square meters, you know.
I think the other point is we already have a house, so we wouldn't need to create a whole other dwelling. Just stop.
On the side there, I just saw that, yeah.
Okay, I've got another follow-up question. Is there going to be any utilities provided for this building, whether it's 30 by 30 or 1,000 square feet or whatever, for electrical or water or anything like that?
Electrical, yes.
I can speak to that. There is water on the land now, and the is ready to be connected when we choose to do it. And the garage will have obviously a couple of outlets in there, and it will have some fluorescent lighting in there. But that's and a facility to open up the garage door. But it won't be heating in there. It'll be insulated. It won't be heated. But that's it. Yeah, nothing else.
Quick question from Penny.
In here, it talks about sewage disposal on-site system approved by Island Health would be required. So were you planning on putting any kind of septic system in?
No, we're not going to be. No, there's nothing. There's no need for that. No.
And one question, probably to staff. Why wouldn't you just erase the line and attach it to one of the properties?
Yeah, that is a good question. So this one is actually on the center of Woodley Loop. So it's not contiguous with any of the other lots. It's actually surrounded by road. And then just a comment on the sewage disposal. It would only be required if there was any interior plumbing in the building. So if they added a bathroom or something like that, it would.
There's lots of those hooks across roads that attach properties. So I just was a question.
Yeah, it is an option. I mean, there are ways to hook lots across the road. Of course, it would be up to the applicants to determine whether they wanted to do that. And I think when we went over the options originally when you applied here, that the property owners had felt that they would seek this zoning as the first opportunity to build what they want to build. I will also highlight, just in our conversations with other applicants around the region, I would say, and Sproat Lake, that there is a desire for having access to a zone like this. So I do think it is something that we could see other people applying for as well in the future.
So when one builds a garage on a property similar like this, do you take into consideration where a house would go and where a septic would go when you build this, so that you're not limiting any future development?
Could I talk to that, please?
Yes, please, Dennis.
There is an existing large septic field across the road that was put in when Bob Cole and the Warrens were doing some development there, and it's existing and can be. It has space for another, at least one, maybe two. Plus, one of the homes, one of our house on the on the driveway has its own septic field, really good state of the art. But if a home went in, they can tap it. They can go across the road about 30 or 40 feet and go straight into an existing septic field that Craig Bowman put in years ago, and that is underutilized. Really, it's only got 2 people using it.
And I think I'm not sure if all the committee members have this really nice satellite photo with the diagram on it, but it shows the proximity of the Woodsley Loop property to the septic field, which is borders on Passoon Road. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's is it the one that's on the kind of rectangle of the common property,
Yeah.
Linda? Is that the
Yes.
one on the so just across the road on
Yeah.
Quassoon, there's there's a piece there. So there is the potential for that to be used. But again, it would only be required if there was a bathroom that was placed in this or any future dwelling. And then with respect to like future planning of the site, I think it's always a good idea for a property owner to do that, and we'll work with people in doing that. But the ACRD doesn't require any sort of site design that would allow for future uses on the property.
I'm just asking because if we're approving something that really limits a piece of property, it sounds kind of strange, and I don't know that there's nothing in here that talks about an agreement or a strata into a septic field. So if I came along and bought this piece of property and there was a garage in the middle and a septic field that's in place or, potentially across the road, it sounds messy.
Well, I might be wrong, but I would answer that by saying that if somebody in the future bought that land, they'd be obligated to put in their own septic field, surely. And maybe they could get permission to access the strata across the road's septic field, but if they weren't allowed to, they'd be obliged by the city to, I would imagine, put in a septic field.
I guess one thing I'd like to say is I think it was very visionary of staff to create the new zoning so that the storage area could be accommodated to for our convenience, but that it wouldn't restrict the erection of a residence at a later date, because it gives that flexibility. But as we said, we don't need a whole other residence, but it's really helpful that the proposed zoning would allow for that.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I'd like to just add one more question. With the only thing that you're saying is that that's going to be stored in this is going to be a boat in a building itself. Now, I see you've got 2 sea cans in there, I think, on the property. I've seen places that have 2 sea cans split, spread 20 feet apart with a roof over top. The sea cans are full in between on the roofed-in area between the 2 sea cans is full as well.
Yeah.
I mean, and it does look tacky.
Okay, we got.
Are we saying that the area, the other place is going to look like a park other than the building and that's storing your boat?
Okay, I'll speak to that. There's also, maybe you missed, there's a trailer there also that belongs to me. I have futures in Douglas fir in those containers that is going to be sold, and the containers will be moved well before anything is going on. So, yeah, I appreciate your point, but they won't be there.
Okay, so follow up, what about the trailer then? Is that going to be on there? Or
No,
does it
no,
disappear or what?
the trailer will be gone. I got a deal if you're interested.
Okay, so have we beat this one sufficiently? More.
When I was reading this, probably more for Alex. When I was reading this, the new area has to be at least 0.24 hectares in size. And then this particular piece of property, I'm told, is 0.20 hectares in size. So now we have a situation we have to ask for a variance already. So instead of doing that, instead of doing 0.24, why don't we make it 2.0?
Another great question. So that does create a non-conforming lot, which the Local Government Act allows a local government to do that. It is not uncommon either that we have that. The reason where the 0.24 hectare number comes from is that's in the OCP, and the OCP supports that's the smallest density that's supported in the residential land use designation there. So the zoning has to comply with the OCP, but it is not uncommon for us to in an area where we have some of these lots that are, I don't know when this property was originally developed, but decades and decades ago that predated the regional district. And so what this will create would be a non-conforming lot that would be able to continue in its current form under the new zoning until it is redeveloped. So if in the future somebody came in and they wanted to try to subdivide this lot, we would need to apply to rezone it, redesignate in the OCB, and go through that process. It's no different than having a building that was built prior to the regional district, and then that building can remain as is and be maintained and used into the future until it needs to be replaced, and then it would meet the new regulations.
But we have a situation now that the building is going to be built now. So do we not have to go variance on this then?
No, the building would have to comply with the setbacks in the zone. So the setbacks in the SW3 zone would be the front yard setback, which is 27.4 meters, and then 3 meters from the rear of the side lot line. As long as it meets those parameters, no variance would be needed. It doesn't matter the lot area or the lot size in that case. Now, if they needed to or wanted to go closer to the front yard or into the rear and the side, they would need to apply for a variance in that case. My understanding is that they do have enough space on site to where they intend to build it would meet the new rules that would be set.
So just by approving this, then they're okay to put the building on, even if the lot's not big enough?
That's correct.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, I've got one last question to the planning department. So are we talking about this being a zone RA1 with an SW3, or is it an SW3 by itself?
SW3 by itself, it's a whole new zone.
Yeah, it's a whole new zone, yeah.
Just another question. So this zoning would fit right across our whole area. Perfect. Thank you.
Okay, once again, have we beat this one sufficiently? Well,
Can we create other zones like this? If this is a new, how do we adopt this at the board?
So the board has the ability to create a new zone. It is something we've routinely done in the last number of years. Lots of like site specific zones, for example, or zones that would be made to comply with that minimum lot size. The board does it by bylaw. So at the when the board is creating a zoning text amendment bylaw, then that would actually introduce this SW3 zone into the consolidated zoning bylaw, and then the subsequent bylaw would be the map amendment that would rezone that property. That makes sense. I know that I used the word bylaw a lot in a row there, but essentially the zoning bylaw is that living document that the board can make changes to by amendments, and that can be in the text or that can be in the maps. Sherry?
Sure, go ahead.
This is for personal use only, right?
Yes.
Yes, that's correct.
So is there a way to restrict friends and neighbors not allowed type thing? Because this could turn into a non-profit storage facility for everybody you know, so is it a way for you to underline to your friends saying, no, I can't do that for you, and get away with saying no?
No, not at all. No,
No.
no. We just got a boat we got a deal on a boat that's a bit bigger, and we got a car and a little trailer thing in the other garage, so it doesn't fit. So we're obliged to build this place.
Yeah.
But you know, there's no way we would be renting out to anybody for any use at all. I can't. It just wouldn't occur to us really.
Okay, thank you for answering.
Okay, I think it's time that we conclude the discussion on this thing. I think we need somebody to submit a bring a motion in
Motion.
on this particular topic. Do I hear a
I will move that we proceed with the recommendation as listed.
do we have a seconder? All in favor? Motion carried.
Okay, Linda, Dennis, thank you so much for answering all the questions. And again, just like the other applications, this will go to the board on February 25th.
Great.
And, we will let you know the outcome there.
Thank you very much for this opportunity to present. Okay, all the best. Good night.
So go forth and prosper.
Okay, is it over now?
I guess, yeah, just about.
I think.
I think unless you've got anything more, Alex, I think this will entertain a motion to adjourn.
I move we adjourn.
And do we have a seconder to adjourn? We have a seconder. Meeting.
Thanks, Sherry.
All in favor?
We appreciate it. Thank you, Len, for joining us.
Okay.
And thank you, everybody here, for the late night. Yes, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.